I wish my father could have come to Roshar. Things that seemed mundane to others fascinated him to no end. The rocky hills and the crustaceous life that seemed to make up this entire world are so different from the home I once knew. He would have written enough dissertations, and filled enough sketchbooks to drown a man within the first week alone. He was odd, but he had a love of discovery, and visiting other worlds would have been a dream come true for him. And my brother. He would have loved seeing the different spren, and the shapes they come in. The spren are small spirit-looking entities that appear around the planet. Forces and states of mind that normally are too subtle to observe clearly are manifested visually, making their study far easier to perform empirically. I believe that a spren is a physical representation of a cognitive entity. They are not physical in the sense that you can touch them, or that they have any sort of measurable mass. But they remind me of the simple minds that exist, attached to objects in the cognitive realm. However, these are not attached to any one object. Rather, they are bound to a purpose or intent. For instance, if one is provoked into anger, anger spren seem to be drawn out, and serve as a secondary indicator of the being's intent. There are also spren tied to more ecological forces, such as flame spren and river spren. I've even observed spren that seem to account for things unseen, such as wind spren and life spren. This aspect of spren and their natures reveals a promising potential in the fields of science and sociology. It must be far easier to consult or comfort someone when fear spren manifest their anxiety. In my personal journals, I have been writing up my observations of the spren and their forms. My notes are far from professional, and I doubt anyone but myself would be interested in these notations. I feel there must be some connection between the existence of spren and the high storms which bring great rushing surges of investiture. These cataclysmic storms occur most weeks, if not multiple times a week. Such a rush of raging power must have metaphysical effects along with the violent weather phenomena that is the storm wall. Now, while I would love to chat about spren all day, this letter is a particular note because I have a theory about what these spren actually are. You see, they take up the form that is far too intelligent to be just a stray consciousness. Some of the larger spren are able to interact and mimic people, such as wind spren. They have an almost playful attitude, and have been known to play pranks on humans they encounter. No, there is something far greater at work here. As you know from my previous letter, I am now aware of the former existence of Adonasium and of the Shattering. These fractured shards left and later developed a drive or a fundamental nature to themselves. Shards are immense in scope and power. This power yields abilities that seem only limited to the imagination. In fact, we know from the words of founding that shards have created life from their power. Now, getting back to the topic at hand, these spren do not act like any animals I've ever come across. They seem to thrive on ideas and concepts of the human mind. By observing and often mimicking what they interact with, spren reveal that they have a core nature. They are drawn to some kind of theme or purpose. This tendency to have and hold true to an idea or state of environment that reflects what they themselves are. In this way, they remind me of a matured shard. As you recall, the shards seem to have a compulsion to seek out a particular ideal, usually summarized by the name they adopt. The spren seem to mimic this type of behavior and single-mindedness. I postulate, based on these observations, that spren are little pockets of Shardic power. Unlike raw investiture, which is simply harnessable energy, spren are power with a measured intelligence and will. They are like splinters of a soul. It is easier to understand this position when you visit the cognitive realm. There, the spren seem far more complex, and even dangerous. There are whispers of larger spren that have intelligence and memories. I hope to do a more direct observation as soon as I have established myself with the peoples here. I have seen enough to recognize that there is something nearly supernatural about these beings. It seems reasonable to assume that these spren are a piece of a greater whole. Splinters are entities of power that were never alive as a humanoid, but attain a level of consciousness. This is where things are still a bit fuzzy. It cannot be denied that the spren are intelligent, at least in a broad sense. By contrast, the returned Anathis also carry with them a splinter in the form of a divine breath. In fact, all breath might be considered a splinter, since they are portions of a shard's power, but a divine breath is unique. Yet it must be asked, Are the returned a person brought back from death by infusing their soul with a splinter? Or does the splinter itself inherit the body of a dead person? The answer to this might simply be both. And for this particular argument, the distinction is not important. What matters is that there is an intent behind both a spren and a divine breath. I would then also guess from my studies that Scions could be considered splinters. They are far more than just a symbol of Aeon Dor, and they exemplify obedient intelligence with a profound memory and distinct personality. In this way, they might be the most advanced form of documented splinter to date. However, there is a potential in the spren, and if the Night Watcher and Stormfather can be confirmed to be massive spren, they might be the most powerful splinters known to man. I am particularly intrigued by this Night Watcher. There are rumors that she can grant requests, or wishes, that come with an associated curse. If this is more than a myth, the implications are staggering. Regardless, I plan to make a journey to see this being. I also hope to find a good location to watch a high storm. Hopefully I will be able to observe this Stormfather for myself. As I pondered these findings, my thoughts turned to Scadrial. At first, I couldn't think of any beings or entities that would be counted as splinters. In fact, I still feel that Scadrial has never seen a splinter according to the historical records that we have. Yet I pause at the thought of the Kandra. The shapeshifters are intelligent beings that once were mindless creatures. They gained their intelligence via the power of 2 hemalurgic spikes. This was when I made the connection between spikes and splinters. This may be an unrelated correlation, but the similarities are strong, and only separated by scope. Most hemalurgic spikes are simply a form of spiritual surgery, ripping one soul apart and splicing pieces of that soul into another person. But with the Kandra, they grant actual consciousness, as if they were a splinter themselves. Perhaps they are. However, I abhor the thought of anyone performing an investigation. Any testing of hemalurgy will be destructive beyond the point of rationality. What troubles me are the whispers of these Voidbringers. On Roshar there are tales of monsters built from stone and darkness that once sought the destruction of all sentient life on this world. The rumors are whispers at best, but I have made several well-informed connections. If my discoveries here are accurate, then these Void Spren are actually real. Then we are dealing with splinters that are openly hostile. My guess is that these spren move with an intent and were created purposefully by a destructive shard. I see now why I was sent here, for history seems ripe to repeat itself. I wish I could be absolutely wrong about this, but my gut feeling is that there is a great destruction coming. To you, I suggest the following caution. Should I prove right, and find that there are evil spren sent to do the work of a destructive shard, be sure to look for the patterns. These splinters seem to be mimics or replicas of what already exists here. This goes against all that I have observed on other worlds, where the shards manifest uniquely when exerting their respective investiture powers. If this Dark One seeks to mimic his followers, then his touch may be subtle. Look for the signs of madness or corruption of what already exists. And red eyes. Perhaps this is another sign to watch for. There are reports that the people who wage war here have recently been seen with glowing red eyes. This might be the only reliable way to recognize the servant of this being. Then again, it is possible that there are multiple shards attempting to cause upheaval and destruction. The thought alone sends shivers up my spine. I will continue to look into these Voidbringers, and there are more and more reports coming in all the time. Something inside me feels that this is a giant bell just beginning to toll the final hours of this place. The air almost hums with tension, and I fear that someday this world will break. I hope your messengers can find me amidst what is to come. Perhaps I am wrong, but this seems all too familiar. I wish I had more time, but I am afraid. Afraid that I will once again watch innocent lives be snuffed out. I don't want to watch another world die. Until the next letter, Elsric.